Imagine you have just pulled off an absolute miracle.
Oh, like a real 0-hour save.
Exactly. I mean, it is 2 in the morning, your eyes are burning, but you managed to catch a massive catastrophic data error just like hours before a critical board meeting.
Sounds incredibly stressful.
It is. But the next day, your boss praises you in front of the whole team. They called your save and ultimately diving catch. And, you feel like a hero, right? You saved the day.
Sure, you get the dopamine hit.
Right. But what if I told you that exact compliment, that glorification of the last-minute save, is actually, well, one of the biggest red flags in modern corporate culture?
Oh, absolutely. It is the kind of compliment that should honestly have you updating your resume.
Wait, really? Just for getting praised?
Yeah, because when a system requires a hero, I mean, it means the system itself is fundamentally broken.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. Today, our mission is to decode the hidden mechanics of the modern workplace. And honestly, just how to survive modern competition.
Right. And we are doing this by looking at a curated stack of everyday workplace phrases, idioms, and jargon.
Yeah, but let me be clear right up front. We are not giving you a dictionary today. Like, we are not doing an English lesson.
Not at all. Language is, well, it's a diagnostic tool.
A diagnostic tool, I like that.
Yeah. When you strip away the corporate gloss and look closely at the specific vocabulary we use to describe our work, our risks, and our failures, you start to see the structural reality of the environment we operate in.
Totally.
We are going to map out the entire life cycle of a career today, from the desperation of breaking in to building defenses to dealing with the toxic elements that, inevitably seep through the cracks.
And we have to start that life cycle at the absolute bottom, the
Yeah.
entry point.
The grind.
Yeah, the grind. Think about the sheer physics of trying to get a foot in the door. We throw that phrase around so casually, like it just means submitting a good cover letter.
Right, but a door is a barrier.
Exactly. It is actively designed to stay shut and keep you out.
To wedge your foot in that door requires you to absorb a significant amount of friction and, honestly, pain.
Pain is the right word.
In our current economic landscape, that often translates to, like, taking on unpaid internships at prestigious design studios or accepting a grueling, really underpaid entry-level role.
So you basically have to suffer just to prove you want it.
Exactly. The system demands that you prove your willingness to be uncomfortable just to cross the threshold.
But the cruel irony is that once you finally endure that pain and get inside, your grand prize is that you get to run in the rat race.
Oh, the rat race.
Yeah, and I want to pause on that phrase because the psychology of a rat race is, well, it's terrifying. You aren't running toward a destination or a finish line.
You're just spinning.
You are trapped in a wheel, fighting fiercely for incremental, often completely meaningless gains against the people right next to you.
Which really explains the epidemic of burnout we see everywhere. I mean, the psychological toll of running nowhere is immense.
Right.
It is exactly why you see brilliant, highly capable people suddenly abandon lucrative city jobs to do something entirely different. They realize the wheel never stops turning.
And the organizations operating these wheels, they're the ones controlling the speed.
Mm-hmm.
They don't just passively hope for more output. They engineer a constant ramp up of production.
Oh, for sure.
Let's say a company anticipates a spike in holiday demand. Leadership doesn't just hire more people. They tighten the screws. They demand that existing teams start working around the clock.
And this is where we see the transition from a psychological toll to a severe physiological cost. Working around the clock inevitably leaves teams sleep-deprived.
And we're not just talking about being a little tired.
No, not at all. While we might equate that to a college student pulling an all-nighter and, struggling to focus during finals, the corporate reality is much darker.
How so?
Well, when your cognitive function plummets in a high-stakes environment, the business model is literally extracting more human energy than it allows you to replace.
Oh, wow. You are basically a depreciating asset at that point.
Precisely.
People just keep pushing until whatever emergency rollout they were assigned to is finally pushed live, and then they collapse. They look around and admit, wow, we were on fumes.
Running on fumes is such a telling admission.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about it. A car on fumes is stalling. It is operating entirely on the volatile vapors left in an empty tank. It is an unsustainable state of mechanics.
Which brings me right back to that scenario I asked you to imagine at the start of the deep dive, the ultimately diving catch.
Right, the hero moment.
Yeah, someone uses sheer willpower to pull off a complicated deal or save a broken presentation at the 11th hour. Why do companies celebrate this? Like, why is this the gold standard of employee dedication?
They celebrate it because the culture of the hustle glorifies individual sacrifice over structural competence.
Wow.
But think about what that actually means structurally. Relying on an employee's desperate sports-style diving catch to pull off a project is not a viable long-term strategy.
Obviously not.
If your baseline operations require constant heroics just to function, you don't have a functional business. You have a crisis in perpetual motion.
So if you are listening to this right now and you realize your entire career has just been a series of exhausting diving catches, what is the play? Like, how do you actually survive when the daily grind is literally designed to drain you?
Well, you have to fundamentally change your operational mindset.
Okay.
You have to transition from a state of pure reactionary hustle to a state of strategic defense. In short, you have to stop running a cowboy operation.
I have to say, calling something a cowboy operation is so evocative.
Isn't it?
It paints this picture of someone shooting from the hip, breaking the rules, riding fast and loose.
It sounds romantic in a movie, but in reality, a cowboy operation is chaotic and deeply fragile.
Right.
Think of a reckless subcontractor who cuts so many safety corners that the regulatory bodies have to completely shut them down. Hustle and rule breaking might get you initial attention, but survival requires structural integrity.
So you need a solid base.
Exactly. You need to build a load-bearing foundation.
Like the architecture of a house, you can strip away the wallpaper, you can change the furniture, but if you remove a load-bearing wall, the entire roof collapses on your head.
Precisely the point. You have to establish what parts of your skill set or your company's value actually hold the roof up.
Okay.
And once that load-bearing foundation is secure, you can start digging the trenches. You build much of the moat.
The moat. The holy grail of corporate strategy. But a moat isn't just a defensive ditch, is it? It is about creating distance between you and the rat race.
Yes. In strategic terms, much of the moat refers to a core, unassailable advantage.
Like what?
It could be decades of proprietary data or a massive network effect where your product becomes more valuable the more people use it. The moat is what insulates you from the daily skirmishes of your competitors.
And the treasure, sitting safely inside that heavy fortress, that is your alpha.
Yes.
There is this phrase that gets thrown around in high-level strategy. My alpha is my alpha. It is such an incredibly confident, almost aggressive declaration.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like planting a flag and saying, my unique, unreplicable value is mine alone, and you cannot touch it.
It is the ultimate declaration of leverage. But possessing that alpha introduces a massive strategic tension.
How so?
Well, once you have built this fortified position, how do you govern it? Are you fundamentally risk-averse? Do you treat your business like a conservative investor holding safe government bonds, constantly seeking to insulate your team and your operations from every external shock and market temperature fluctuation?
I mean, insulation sounds great when you've spent years running on fumes. You just want to be safe.
Of course.
But I imagine the danger of over-insulating is that you lose touch with the outside world. The alternative is choosing to be as exposed as possible, which frankly sounds terrifying after you just spent all that energy building a moat.
It is terrifying, but it is often where the real growth happens.
Really?
Yeah. Imagine a startup deciding to launch a buggy beta product specifically to get it as exposed as possible to brutal user feedback. They are inviting the friction.
Right, because they want to know what's broken.
They are letting the outside world attack the product because that stress testing is the only way to find the real flaws.
Or, instead of just taking feedback, you go on the offensive. You launch a fireball offense.
A great strategy.
A totally overwhelming, highly aggressive move right in the first quarter to completely destabilize your competition before they even know what game is being played.
And whatever ground you capture with that fireball offense, you immediately lock it down with a massive portfolio of patents.
I'm glad you brought up patents, because it is one of those words with a fascinating dual meaning.
It really is.
In a legal sense, a patent is a shield. It protects a hidden proprietary invention. But in everyday language, patent means something that is blatantly, painfully obvious to everyone looking at it, like calling a terrible idea a patent absurdity.
That's a great point.
Okay, let me push back on this fortress concept for a second.
Go for it.
If I have a heavy, load-bearing moat and a thick portfolio of patents, and I am heavily insulated, how on earth do I stay nimble? We are constantly told that agility is everything, that small startups win because they are nimble. Can a heavily armored fortress actually pivot?
That is the defining paradox of long-term success, and the only way to resolve it is through leadership's relationship with the truth.
The truth.
Yes. You can only maintain a heavy defense while remaining nimble if you are willing to face challenging economic realities squarely, meaning you look at the brutal facts of the market directly and without flinching.
So no hiding.
Exactly. If you hide behind your heavy moat and refuse to face shifts in consumer behavior squarely, your armor stops being a defense. It becomes your tomb.
Wow, your armor becomes your tomb. That is a chilling thought.
It is.
And it leads us perfectly into the dark side of this roadmap, because building the moat is just the structural side. But what happens when you isolate human beings inside that fortress?
Things get complicated.
People are incredibly messy. And sometimes, the biggest threat isn't the competitor outside, it is the decay inside.
This is where the sociological lens is absolutely critical. Isolation breeds strange behaviors.
Enter the rogue actor.
Yes.
We usually hear that term and think of like a lone hacker in a basement preaching a corporate firewall. But the reality is often much more mundane and internal. Entire departments can go rogue.
It happens all the time.
You might have a regional office that just decides to do its own independent budget planning, completely ignoring the protocols set by leadership. They detach from the hive mind.
And we shouldn't underestimate the sheer scale of the damage that internal detachment can cause. Think about the word enormity.
Enormity, yeah.
Today, people often use enormity just to mean something really big, like the enormity of a massive construction project. But the traditional historical definition of enormity is extreme evil or profound moral failure.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so when a toxic culture takes root inside an organization, the damage isn't just large in scale, it is an enormity in the truest, most destructive sense of the word.
Let's bring that enormity down to the everyday interactions that ruin a workplace. If you've spent any time in a corporate office, you know these people.
Oh, absolutely.
The sycophantic employee who constantly, aggressively flatters the boss to get a promotion. Or the conniving middle manager who operates like a shady politician, constantly holding secret meetings behind closed doors to undermine their peers.
Those behaviors are the acid that slowly eats away at the load-bearing foundation we talked about earlier. When survival depends on flattery rather than competence, the structure rots.
And from a purely social perspective, it is just so incredibly cringy to watch.
It really is.
It's like watching a terrible, deeply uncomfortable audition tape where you feel secondhand embarrassment for the person. When someone is being overtly sycophantic, they aren't being clever. They stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
They are as painfully obvious as someone wearing a neon tracksuit to a black tie gala.
But those are the mild symptoms of decay. The danger escalates exponentially when that conniving behavior crosses the line into actual malice. This is where you encounter a coordinated grift, a sophisticated con designed to defraud unsuspecting investors, or the weaponization of the legal system, where an entity files a completely frivolous lawsuit for no other reason than to harass a competitor and drain their resources.
And the terrifying part about dealing with a grift or a frivolous lawsuit is that even if you win, your professional reputation can still get soiled.
Yes, the damage is done.
It leaves this nasty, lingering stain on your record that is almost impossible to wash out in the public eye.
But there is a consequence of isolation that is even darker than a soiled reputation. When individuals maneuver around reality for too long, completely disconnected from a grounded community, they become vulnerable to self-radicalization.
Oh, man.
Yeah, without any central organization or direct recruitment, a person wandering the dark corners of the internet can independently absorb toxic ideologies and descend into a deeply destructive worldview. It is the ultimate failure of the human need for connection.
So we've walked through the meat grinder, the hustle. We've built the moat. We've looked at the terrifying enormity of the bad actors and the rogue departments that threaten to tear it all down from the inside.
We have.
How does anyone actually navigate all of this and survive?
You survive through a highly calibrated sense of nuance. Brute force might get your foot in the door, but it won't keep you in the room. Long-term survival relies on mastering the subtle things.
The subtle things, like what?
Like the exact tone of voice you use to de-escalate a conniving colleague, or the precise timing of a product launch.
It is the ability to subtly maneuver around a rigid bureaucratic regulation to get a permit rather than trying to smash your head through a brick wall.
Exactly. And navigating that landscape frequently requires you to completely convert your approach.
Convert your approach.
Yes. Sometimes that is literal, like converting an entire archive of physical files into a new digital ecosystem.
Right.
But more often it is psychological. You have to convert your very mindset to adapt to a new reality.
I will be the first to raise my hand and say that kind of profound change is always jarring for me. The psychological shock of a major pivot is real.
It is uncomfortable.
Think about someone who has lived their entire life in a quiet, rural village, suddenly moving to the center of a hyper-dense, bustling city. The sensory overload is jarring,
Totally.
and when you are disoriented like that, you are going to make mistakes. You might try to cut corners, you buy a cheap imitation of a luxury product because you think you can fake it, and the resulting repairs or the public embarrassment are going to set you back thousands of dollars and vital social capital.
But avoiding that jarring discomfort is a trap. You have to lean into the friction.
I love that you said that because I have an analogy I want to try out on you.
Okay, let's hear it.
Have you ever encountered a durian? The pungent fruit from Southeast Asia.
The one that is notoriously banned from public transit and hotels because of the smell? Yes.
Right. It is literally known as the king of fruits, but the smell is aggressively offensive.
Yeah.
I think difficult but necessary pivots in your career, or even those really harsh, tough love mentors who tell you the truth no one else will, are exactly like that pungent fruit.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Your first instinct is to banish it. It stinks. It is incredibly jarring.
Yeah.
But if you can stomach that initial shock and get past the defensive smell, the value inside is incredibly rich. You have to be willing to eat the pungent fruit if you want to grow.
That is a phenomenal way to frame it. People want the rich value, but they demand that it be wrapped in a sweet, easy-to-digest package.
Right.
Reality doesn't work that way. The friction is the teacher.
Which brings us to the final phase of this roadmap, longevity. You've eaten the pungent fruit, you survived the grist, you've built the moat. How do you actually sustain this for a 30-year career without losing your mind?
Well, the first rule of longevity is that you must keep abreast of the changing currents in your industry. You have to maintain your peripheral vision. If you stop paying attention to how the world is converting around you, you become obsolete.
You become a tape deck.
A tape deck.
Yeah, imagine someone frantically driving around in a modern electric vehicle trying to figure out where to insert a cassette tape. You do not want your skill set to be the human equivalent of a tape deck in a streaming world.
I will actually push back on the tape deck slightly because obsolescence isn't always permanent.
Wait, really?
Sometimes highly specific older skills regain immense premium value when the market cycles back. A well-maintained vintage tape deck is worth a fortune to the right audiophile.
Oh, that is a fantastic point.
Okay.
It reminds me of the concept of the boomerang employee. We've all seen this happen. Someone hits a ceiling internally, so they leave. They go out into the wild for 2 years, gain a diverse set of external experiences, and then they boomerang back to their original company at a much higher level.
They didn't just sit in the fortress, they went out and became more valuable.
And part of becoming more valuable is knowing when to stop entirely. You cannot operate at a diving catch frequency forever.
No, you'd burn out.
You have to recognize when the intense pressure of a project is finally starting to taper off, like a violent storm subsiding into a light drizzle. When it tapers off, you have to seize the opportunity to recover.
This is the magic of the sabbatical. Stepping completely away for 6 months or a year to travel, write, or just literally do nothing. It's a massive strategic advantage for your mental health.
It is.
But there is a catch. You can only take that sabbatical if you haven't trapped yourself in the golden handcuffs.
The golden handcuffs are the ultimate trap of the rat race. They really are. You want to leave, you desperately need the rest, but the company has tied you to the desk with unvested stock options and a lifestyle you can no longer afford to walk away from. You are a prisoner of your own success.
But if you manage to avoid the handcuffs, stepping away acts as a profound restorative. It is a tonic.
A tonic.
Just like drinking an ice-cold ginger ale after a grueling 10-mile hike revitalizes your system, a true break is a tonic for your career.
And building that kind of long-lasting, unshakable career requires a commitment to the boring stuff. It's like the guy who spends 6 months quietly lifting weights every single morning until he is completely jacked.
Exactly.
There's no shortcut. Or, to tie it back to our cowboy operation from earlier, it is about doing the unglamorous maintenance. A cowboy operation doesn't take the time to scrub the chopping board after cutting raw meat. They just keep cooking.
And that's how you get shut down.
Exactly. Thoroughly washing that chopping board is the only thing keeping the whole restaurant from shutting down due to food poisoning.
Survival is mundane. The hyper-aggressive fireball offenses and the diving catches get all the press, but they burn out.
They always do.
The simple, reliable practices, the structural, load-bearing habits, those are the things that are going to be around for a long time.
Looking at this entire roadmap we just built,
Mm.
the absolute necessity of that boring foundational preparation is the one lesson that has really stuck by me today. You simply cannot fake the
You
foundation.
cannot. The vocabulary reveals the truth every time.
So we have traced the entire arc. We started with the sheer pain of getting a foot in the door and the systemic exhaustion of running on fumes.
Hmm.
We looked at how to survive by building a load-bearing moat and declaring an unassailable alpha. We faced the enormity of rogue actors and toxic sycophants.
Dark side.
And finally, we learned that eating the pungent fruit of change, washing the proverbial chopping board, and knowing when to seek a restorative tonic are the true secrets to longevity.
It is a comprehensive map of modern survival. But as we look at this fortress we've designed to protect ourselves from the rat race, it leaves me with one final, deeply uncomfortable question for you to consider.
Ooh, lay it on us.
If your alpha is truly unassailable, and you are heavily insulated behind a massive, load-bearing moat, do you eventually risk becoming the rogue actor yourself? Or worse, do you become that vintage tape deck, perfectly preserved inside your fortress, but entirely disconnected from the jarring, pungent realities of the changing world outside your walls?
Oh, that is a brilliant trap to watch out for. You build the moat to survive the world, but the moat might just lock you in. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take a hard look at your own roadmap this week and ask yourself, which of these phrases actually describes your daily life? Are you on fumes or are you building the moat? We will see you next time.